the CEC Validator app, you can easily build conceptual schedules for your projects and quickly see how your schedules and cost estimates compare against industry norms. In this video, we'll show you how to use the app's 3 main workflows and where to find detailed insights for your projects and entire portfolio. Let's get started.
There are 3 ways of adding a project. If it is very early on, you don't have your project schedule or cost, but you want to just see how long it's going to take me. Let me just quickly run it. That's where this comes into picture. The second workflow is that now you have your own plan that you want to compare against industry phase by phase and see where I'm planning a lot conservative or a lot aggressively. You can use this option, and then the third one is I have both cost and schedule, and I want to run both more of a comprehensive validation. We can start with building a conceptual schedule. There is the project entry screen, which is going to ask you some questions about your project, high-level characteristics. There are a couple of optional fields which we recommend you enter because you can go back and refer to those anytime. So for example, more detail on location. If you have some unique ID tracking system for your projects, you can add project ID. The type of process. So for example, your chemical project, you can enter phase. So this is the phase where the project is at the time of entry. Since we're building a conceptual schedule, the core input here, in addition to others that we have entered, is the cost. So for example, we're looking at a $30 million project, and we want to build a schedule from a given start date. So similar to the CEC schedule duration tool, we have 2 options here, one where you can build it forward, or one where if you give it, okay, this is what I'm targeting to for my startup of the project, you can do a backward calculation. As soon as you hit that button, it will give you what are sort of the norms for industry in 2 scenarios. Again, similar to the Excel-based tool, but this is much more controlled for because we're asking more questions about your project. So what the 2 tables below give you is the range around those durations. So for when we say execution duration is 15 months, there are projects that were able to do it in 10 months. There are projects that took 20 months. Now we have our own plan that we want to compare against. We can move on to the next by editing the project. And you can edit the project by going to project list, or if you're looking at this report, there is a button to edit project on there. And let's say we now moved on to FEL2 phase, and we have a schedule that we want to enter this time to compare against the industry norms. So in this case, so I'm adding just some random dates here. As soon as you provided the schedule, now this time what it also does is, in addition to the data that we saw earlier, and really running it for any of the updates, you will also see that based on your chosen strategy, which we said this project is cost driven, is comparing your project plan against the industry norms for the not schedule driven scenario, or whatever is your chosen strategy. Similar to the conceptual schedule output, we also have those 2 norms. Even though your strategy is not schedule driven, we also would like to show you what is the schedule driven norms, because very early on, especially, the strategy is not set in stone. So you may still want to look at what I would achieve if really we want to go, business decides to go schedule driven. And then the visual format, how the project compares against industry. And then in this case, since we have your plan, you can see quickly at a quick glance the color scheme. Green meaning is in the average range, yellow meaning is outside P50, but within the 80% range, and red meaning that you're completely outside the P10, P90 range, which is then a significant risk. Let's just see what the cost estimate, cost validation looks like. So say we are now in FEL3 and I have a good estimate I want to run through. It's going to ask a couple of extra questions. And then really the next set of input is your cost estimate in IPA's summary cost form buckets, which I'm assuming you're very well familiar with. But with that, really, I'm keeping the schedule the same. And this time we have a 3-page report. So on the overall page, there are 3 pages on this report. Overall page talks about high level, and then cost and schedule go in depth on each of those validations. So you can see cost and schedule, how overall competitiveness looks like. You can see quickly what project I'm looking at. So on a high level, it's a $30 million project in US. That is an FEL3 right now, and other characteristic is an add-on kind of project. It also provides you a lot of system generated insight for validation. So first of all, the summary of my validation at a high level. What are the key takeaways that I can see at a high level? And then also some of the open-ended questions that IP has seen, some unique situations about project. And then going more detail about the cost summary validation. So the top end of cost validation is just recapping what your cost input is, just to make sure that if there is anything incorrect or missing, you can go ahead and edit those things. But this part of the output is where it is looking a deeper look at your cost estimate at a more granular level. So in a variety of ways, it's looking at your project and comparing it against industry average, and then plotting how does that comparison across 47 models looking like. And then you can see all the data that was used to make those decisions, right? So all the background data for validation. So when we say that your total material, your overall cost estimate is very high, why that is the case? Or you can consume it in more controlled format by filtering, say, I want to just look at my length factor kind of data. Okay, so then the table only shows you the length factor related metrics. You can also filter by some keywords. So if you want to just look at, say, bulk related metrics, you can do so, and only the bulk related metrics will show up here. So that's how the cost validation, as you can see, it's a fairly detailed across 47 ratios. So you can get a good feel of where your project lies compared to industry on variety of metrics. And for easy consumption, they are color coded in the same way, so you can see that case. And you can also sort through the percentiles. So if you want to see all the aggressive ones, then you can do so. If you want to see all the conservative ones, you can do so. So that's the cost side. And then on the schedule, we already looked at it. That's the output where, similar to cost, it compares each phase duration and the overlap against industry averages, and where does your project fall on the spectrum. You can also go back to your old reports. So one report every phase is saved for your consumption later on. So if you want to say I ran my conceptual schedule in FEL1. Let's see what that report was. So you can go back to that. You can go back to what we ran for FEL2. It's not going to save all the versions if you do multiple versions within a given phase. It's going to save the latest version of any phase. So before you move on to the next phase, ideally it's good to make sure that that's the latest version you want to keep in the system before you move on to the next page, because that report will stay saved. The portfolio page here is meant for system level insights aggregated on a portfolio level. And then on that portfolio, you can see competitiveness indicator. So, and again, this is aggregated. So while you're adding every project, each of those projects will receive one of these ratings for cost and one of these ratings for schedule. And then similarly on the competitiveness side, you can also monitor the time trends, because everything that you add here, even across multiple years, will be saved. So you're making your database and you can monitor trends over time. So, and you can filter this portfolio the way you want. So this is not a static page. You can derive various insights by looking at the overall versus the subsets. So for example, if you want to say, I just want to look at my revamp based projects, you can do so. Or you can say, I want to just look at my FID estimates. I don't want to look at my early estimates, just FID estimates, how they are doing. You can do that too. So all of those things are possible on the page. And really the goal is to derive more granular insights about your portfolio. You will also see that there is a projects tab. You will see everything that you enter in the application on a high level in the list format. If you're running the validations, then you will see what were the sort of the validation, where it landed on the cost and schedule. If you're just doing schedule validation, it's going to just show up on the schedule. And from this page, you can add projects from here, or you can always go back to welcome screen. There are a couple of actions you can take from this project list. So you can, if some previous project, you want to just go ahead and view the report, you can view the report. You can go ahead and edit a project. So if you added a project and you now have new round of numbers, and now you're moving to next phase and have more robust cost and schedule, then you can go ahead and edit the project and then advance that way. So you can, and that is still one project. So it's not being counted as multiple if you're going in the same project and actually editing, moving it to next phase, or just rerunning the numbers. You can also share the access of this project. So if you're an individual project user and the other person is also individual project user, they wouldn't necessarily have access to your project unless you actually add them as one of the users for this project. But if you're corporate or administrator, then you have access to everything. Okay. And then there are a couple of portfolio management kind of options. So if there is a project that you ran, but now it is not going through, it is canceled or something, you can always archive the project, or you can put projects on hold and things like that. So when you change the status, you can pause it or cancel it or something. In the settings page, which is something that the administrator role will only see, all of the monitoring you can do from this dashboard here. One of the other things that is also available in this application is classifications. So classifications are things like, it could be your regional capability centers. This custom on each member's end, because every company is different, the way they think about their business, the business units, regional centers, engineering centers, whatnot. So you can actually create your own classifications, and what will happen is whatever classifications you create, and you can create more than one, up to 20 actually, where when your users are entering the project, those classifications will then show up there. So you're tagging a project every time you're entering it in the system. And for eventually, the goal is that you will be able to query your own database for your future estimating needs. So this is also becomes your historical database of projects.
Thanks for watching. Visit ipaglobal.com for more insights on improving capital effectiveness.